6 months passed since the Battle of Nevaeh, the colony rebuilt around and above the ancient Silvery city. The two civilizations integrating in ways no one could have predicted, human technology enhanced by Silvery knowledge, Silvery systems updated, with human innovation. The price of knowledge leading to partnership. Valerie stood on the observation deck of the Earth Defense Command flagship Resilience. Her shoulder healed, though it still ached when she was tired, a reminder of her encounter with the Huntress of Lillian. Of sacrifice. The view before her, both terrifying and magnificent, Earth surrounded by the combined fleet. Human vessels alongside Silvari ships. The last defense against what was coming. Admiral Grace Winters approached, standing beside Valerie watching the same view. The Admiral was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Her uniform crisp, despite the crisis atmosphere that had gripped Earth since the news from Nevaeh reached. "Then they believe us now?" Valerie asked. Winters nodded. They had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming. The void ship we captured, the Silvery technology, the transmissions from the dormant fleet. Every major government has committed resources. Earth is unified for perhaps the first time in history, unity born of necessity. Valerie said, remembering Lysandra's words, "The void consumes all advanced civilizations. It is merely your turn to face them." The Admiral turned, studying Valerie. "Where is she?" "Now your elf friend on the Silvari command ship," Valerie replied. "Preparing the fleet. The dormant vessels all awakened now, nearly 200 restored to full function. Combined with Earth's defenses, we stand a chance. Winters repeated, the word hollow. "How do you fight an enemy that has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than our own?" "The same way we always have," Valerie said. "By standing together, by refusing to surrender, by finding their weaknesses and exploiting them." The Admiral smiled slightly. "You sound like her now." Valerie had heard that before. From colleagues, from friends, even from Commander Wright, now promoted to General and leading the ground defense preparations. Something of Lysandra had rubbed off on her. Perhaps it was the vision the elf woman had shared in that first meeting. Or perhaps it was everything that came after the battle. The sacrifice, the price paid for knowledge. The observation deck doors opened. Lysandra entered, her silver hair flowing around her face, her violet eyes ancient and tired but determined. She wore silvery armor now, no longer hiding her nature, her purpose. Her form seemed to shimmer in the artificial light of the human ship, as if not entirely solid, not entirely present. Admiral Winters straightened, offering the formal greeting that had been established between the species. "May the stars witness our alliance." Lysandra returned the gesture. "May they judge our courage worthy." The diplomatic formalities complete, Lysandra moved to the viewport, standing beside Valerie. The two had become something more than allies in the months since Nevaeh. Not quite friends. Their experiences too different, their perspectives too alien, but something close. A shared purpose, a shared burden. The void fleet has been detected, Lysandra said without preamble. 300 vessels approaching from the galactic rim. They will reach Earth in 48 hours. Winters accepted the news with military stoicism. "Numbers consistent with our projections," she noted. "Are the city defenses ready?" Lysandra nodded. 7 Silvery outposts on Earth now fully activated. Defense grids integrated with your military systems. The ancient weapons platforms orbital and terrestrial operational. The heart chambers synchronized. It had been a revelation to humanity that Earth itself housed multiple Silvari outposts, hidden beneath mountains, beneath oceans, in remote deserts, all dormant for millennia, all waiting for the call to arms. The evidence of an ancient connection between the species that Lysandra had only hinted at, but never fully explained. "Do we have enough?" Valerie asked the question that plagued everyone. Military human Silvari. All who understood what was coming. Lysandra did not answer immediately. Her gaze fixed on Earth, on the planet that housed billions of lives that would be harvested by the void if they failed. "Numbers matter less than resolve," she said finally. "The void can be defeated." They have weaknesses. I have studied them for 5,000 years. Their greatest weakness. Winter's prompted connection. Lysandra replied, "The void is a hive mind, a collective consciousness. Individual units are powerful but dependent on the central intelligence. Disrupt that connection. Isolate the units. They become vulnerable." The tactic had worked on Nevi. The hunters falling when their link to the void consciousness was severed, but scaling that strategy to an entire fleet, that was the challenge that had occupied the combined scientific and military resources of both species for months. Admiral Winters was called away to another briefing, leaving Valerie and Lysandra alone on the observation deck, the silence between them comfortable. "Born of shared experience, you never told them," Valerie said finally, "about the true connection between humans and Silvery." Lysandra continued to gaze at Earth. "They are not ready for that knowledge," she replied. "Some truths come with too high a price, even for those who seek them." The truth that Valerie had glimpsed in the vision, the truth hinted at in the ancient records found in the Silvery outposts, the genetic markers, the cultural similarities, the impossible coincidences. Humanity was not merely an ally to the Silvery. They were descendants, modified, simplified, hidden among the stars when the original Silvery civilization fell, protected by the last survivors who sacrificed their advanced technology, their immortality, their true nature to ensure some trace of their species would survive. "Did Firewing know?" Valerie asked, the pain of the dragon's sacrifice still fresh. Though months had passed, Lysandra touched the pendant at her throat, a small crystal that glowed with golden light, all that remained of her companion. "Yes," she said. "He knew everything. Our history, our purpose, our future." The pendant pulsed slightly as if responding to her words. The dragon's consciousness not entirely gone, just transformed, changed, as all things must change. "You miss him," Valerie said. "More than I can express," Lysandra replied. "But he is not entirely gone. His essence lives within the network. Within the city hearts within me, the sacrifice was necessary. The price of victory is always paid in blood and memory." A new alert sounded throughout the ship. All personnel to battle stations. This was not a drill. The Void Fleet had accelerated, had somehow crossed vast distances faster than predicted. Their arrival now imminent. Hours, not days. The final confrontation approaching. Valerie and Lysandra moved quickly through the ship to the command center, where Admiral Winters coordinated with military leaders worldwide. The atmosphere tense but controlled. Humanity had prepared as best they could, with Silvery guidance, with ancient technology, with newfound determination. The main display showed the approaching Void Fleet, dark shapes against the stars, moving with purpose, with hunger, with the single-minded focus of a predator that had found its prey. Earth displayed as a blue jewel surrounded by its defenders. The combined fleet forming a protective shell around the planet. "They come in greater numbers than expected," Lysandra noted, studying the tactical display. 400 vessels, not 300. "They have committed significant resources. They fear us," Winters said. "Or rather, they fear you, the Silvari. The only species to ever truly challenge them, the Void remembers." Lysandra agreed. "We fought them to a standstill once. Before we fell, before we scattered our remnants among the stars, before we became what we are now, we can defeat them again. But the cost is irrelevant if the alternative is extinction," Winters replied. The statement harsh but true. The first Void ships entered the outer defense perimeter. Energy weapons firing. Immediately the battle begun, without preamble, without communication, without warning. The Void did not negotiate. It consumed. Silvery vessels moved with impossible grace. Coordinated by the city hearts, by technology beyond human understanding, they engaged the enemy ships that had slept for millennia, fighting with renewed purpose, human vessels alongside them. Following battle plans developed by both species, targeting weak points identified by Lysandra and her commanders, Valerie watched, feeling helpless as the battle unfolded, her role as xenobiologist seeming small in the face of such conflict. Yet it was her curiosity, her willingness to approach Lysandra in that marketplace that had started everything, that had given Earth warning, that had awakened the dormant fleet. The price of knowledge leading to this moment, Admiral, we have a problem. A communications officer called void ships, bypassing the main defense line. They target the city hearts specifically. Lysandra moved to the tactical display, her face showing concern. They know our strategy, she said. They remember from Nevaeh. They adapt quickly. 20 void ships broke through the defensive perimeter, heading directly for Earth, for the locations of the Sylvari outposts, the city, hearts that coordinated the defense that powered the ancient weapons. Without them, the battle would be lost. We must protect the hearts, Lysandra said. They are everything. Without them, the fleet loses coordination. The defense systems fail. Winters barked. Orders redirecting ships, positioning defenses. But the void vessels were too fast, too determined, their purpose singular: destroy the city hearts, break the Sylvari connection. Lysandra touched the pendant at her throat, the golden crystal pulsing brighter. In response, there is another way, she said softly. Not speaking to Winters, not to Valerie, but to the essence that had once been Firewing, the dragon who had sacrificed himself for them. Commander Diane Wright was not a woman who accepted explanations easily. Her face remained skeptical as Valerie finished speaking. The briefing room of the colony defense headquarters had fallen silent, everyone processing the incredible story they had just heard. The commander turned her attention to Lysandra. The elf woman stood perfectly still. Firewing curled around her neck, his golden scales gleaming under the artificial lights, though his eyes remained dull, conserving what little energy he had left. You expect me to believe an ancient alien race has been hiding beneath our colony? Commander Wright said. And that another even more ancient enemy is coming to destroy us. All because my xenobiologist decided to speak with you in the marketplace. The price of knowledge is involvement. Lysandra replied, her voice calm. Your colony was involved the moment it was built on Sylvari ruins. Your species was involved the moment it reached for the stars. The void consumes all advanced civilizations. It is merely your turn to face them. Screens around the briefing room flashed with emergency reports. Colony infrastructure failing, buildings collapsing, ground stability compromised, and something else. Unidentified objects entering the system. Multiple signatures moving fast, Commander. We have incoming a young officer called Catherine Belmont, the colony tech specialist. They match no known configuration. Energy readings off the charts on screen. Wright ordered. The main display activated, showing space. Above Nevaeh, dark shapes moving against the stars. Ships unlike any human vessel. Their design similar to the interceptor that had crashed. Not built but grown. Organic yet mechanical. Dozens of them. No hundreds. The Void Fleet. Lysandra said, her expression grim. They followed the activation signal faster than I anticipated. The dormant fleet has not had time to fully awaken. How long before they reach us? Wright asked, her skepticism replaced by military focus. Hours at most, Lysandra replied. They will not negotiate. They will not communicate. They will simply begin. The Harvest Wright turned to her officers. Evacuation protocols, full military response, alert Earth Command. Request all available ships. The officers moved quickly following her orders, but Valerie saw the hopelessness in their eyes. The colony defenses were designed to handle pirates or small hostile forces. Not an armada of advanced alien ships. What exactly are our chances? Commander Wright asked Lysandra directly. The elf woman met her gaze. The Void Fleet numbers approximately 200 vessels. Your colony has 3 defense platforms and 5 patrol ships. If the full might of your Earth military were here, it would make little difference. The Void technology is beyond yours. Their weapons capable of reducing planets to ash. Then why tell us at all? Wright demanded, if we cannot fight them, if we cannot escape them, what purpose does your warning serve? Lysandra looked to Valerie, then back to Wright. Because you are not alone. The Sylvari fleet will come. It will stand with humanity. We fought the void for 1,000 years. We know their weaknesses, their patterns. This world can be defended, but not by your forces alone. The situation would have seemed hopeless, if not for the conviction in Lysandra's voice, the ancient confidence of a commander who had faced these enemies before and survived. But Valerie noticed something else too. The slight tremble in Lysandra's hands, the way Firewing pressed closer to her neck, the strain showing around her eyes. Catherine approached a datapad in her hands. "Commander," she said, addressing Wright but looking at Lysandra. "The colony systems are picking up something from beneath us. The Sylvari city, it's communicating with something." Lysandra nodded. "The awakening has begun. The dormant ships respond. New contacts." "Commander," another officer called. Their signatures matched the alien fleet from the ancient city. The display changed, showing a different sector of space. New ships appearing. These with cleaner lines, more elegant designs, similar to Lysandra's vessel but larger, more powerful. The dormant Sylvari fleet emerging from hiding, places where they had slept for thousands of years, waiting for the call to arms. "How many?" Wright asked. 97 vessels and counting, the officer reported. "The two fleets will engage approximately 300,000 kilometers from Neve Valeri," studied the tactical display, not understanding the military implications but seeing the simple truth. The Sylvari fleet was outnumbered, the void ships more numerous. Still arriving. Still coming. Lysandra moved to the display, studying it, her face showing both hope and concern. "The fleet awakens, but not all respond," she said. "Many ships lost to time, damaged beyond function, or their crews unable to revive properly. 917 reduced to perhaps 200. Too few to stand against them." Commander Wright understood tactics. She saw the same reality. One cannot win a battle when outnumbered and facing superior technology. "We need to evacuate," she said. "Every ship, every shuttle. Get as many people off-world as possible." "No," Lysandra said. "The void will simply follow. They will hunt down every escape, vessel, every survivor. They are relentless, they are patient, they do not stop." "Then what do you suggest?" Wright demanded, anger flaring. "We just wait here to die." Lysandra turned, looking at each person in the room. "Your colony sits above one of our greatest military installations. The city below is more than a command center. It houses our most powerful weapon systems. If we can connect your defense grid to the Sylvari network, it will enhance your capabilities." 1,000-fold. Catherine stepped forward, interest replacing fear in her eyes. "I could do that," she said. "The colony grid is flexible. It was designed to integrate with new technology." Lysandra nodded, then winced slightly. Firewing made a soft sound of distress. The dragon was weakening, Valerie realized, and with him Lysandra herself, their bond connecting them in ways beyond physical. "You need rest," Valerie said to Lysandra. The elf woman had not stopped since their escape from the Huntress, the flight, the battle, the codes, the crash, all taking their toll. "There is no time," Lysandra replied. "The void comes, Catherine. Take me to your main systems hub. I will show you how to connect with the city." But before they could move, alarms sounded throughout the command center. Proximity alerts, security, breaches, multiple locations. "What now?" Wright demanded. The officer at sensors looked up, face pale. "We have intrusion at all colony access points. Something is coming up from below." "The Huntress," Valerie and Lysandra said together. Not just one, the officer corrected, many signatures, similar but different. "Dozens." Lysandra closed her eyes briefly, pain crossing her face. "She speaks truth. I sense them." The void sent more than the Huntress. More hunters, modified, adapted, using the city technology they captured. Through my sister, converted to their purpose. The tactical display showed new threats. Red dots appearing throughout the colony, moving with purpose towards strategic locations. The defense command, the power generators, the evacuation centers, Hunting. Targets with military precision. Commander Wright barked orders. Security teams to all critical infrastructure. Full military response. All civilians to designated shelters. The orders came too late. The first explosions rocked the command center lights, flickered emergency systems activated. The attack had begun. We must move now, Lysandra said. To the systems hub. It is our only chance. They left the command center moving through corridors already showing battle damage, colony security forces engaged. With the hunters, silvery weapons against void technology. The humans outmatched but fighting with desperate courage. Valerie stayed close to Lysandra. The elf woman moved with purpose, though Valerie could see her strength fading. Firewing barely conscious, now his golden scales dulling. The dragon had given too much energy in their escape. From the ancient city, Catherine led them through maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where fighting was heaviest. The systems hub was located beneath. The colony administration building a massive computer complex that controlled everything from life support to communications. The hub was empty when they arrived. The staff evacuated. The only light coming from emergency systems and the soft glow of Lysandra's hair. Firewing stirred briefly as they entered, his eyes opening slightly. Golden light flickering weak, but present. Catherine moved to the main console. This controls everything, she explained. The entire colony grid runs through here. What do we need to do? Lysandra approached the system, her hands hovering above the human technology so primitive compared to Sylvari systems yet adaptable. Interface protocols are complex, she said. We need a direct connection. Firewing made a soft sound, lifting his head slightly, his eyes meeting Lysandra's. They communicated silently. The bond between them conveying thoughts without words. No, Lysandra said aloud, responding to something only she heard. There must be another way. The dragon growled more, insistent. His body glowing brighter for a moment. Catherine looked between them, confused. What's happening? Valerie understood somehow. The dragon offers himself, she said. He can form the connection, but at a cost. Sandra nodded, her face showing ancient grief. The connection requires energy, living energy, a sacrifice. He offers himself as the conduit between your technology and ours. Catherine stepped back. That sounds like the cost is too high. There must be another way. The building shook around them. Explosions closer now. The hunters approaching their advance, methodical, unstoppable. There is no time, Lysandra said. Firewing is right. It is the only way. The dragon uncurled from her neck, moving to the console, his small form barely the size of a house. Cat now, his scales pulsing with the last of his energy. He looked at Valerie once, those ancient eyes holding wisdom beyond human understanding. Then he placed his claws against the main interface. The sylph moved silently through the underground tunnel system, its hull adapting to the confined space, narrowing and elongating as needed. Valerie sat beside Lysandra in what appeared to be the control center, though there were no visible instruments or screens. The elf woman guided the ship with mere thoughts, her hands hovering over surfaces that rippled like water beneath her touch. Firewing lay curled at the rear of the chamber, his wounds slowly healing. Golden light pulsed beneath his scales, where the huntress had damaged him. His eyes remained alert, watching Valerie with ancient intelligence. Where are we going? Valerie asked, finally breaking the silence. Beneath your colony. Lysandra replied. The humans built their settlement on top of one of our ancient outposts. They did not know, of course, the entrance was sealed thousands of years ago, but it contains something we need. The vault you mentioned, Valerie said, the one with the activation codes. What exactly are they? For Lysandra was quiet for so long, Valerie thought she might not answer. Then the codes will awaken the dormant fleet. 1,000 ships hidden throughout this sector of space. The last of our military force preserved in stasis, waiting for the call to arms a fleet. Valerie repeated, trying to imagine what that meant for humanity, for Earth. The implications were staggering. If these void creatures were as dangerous as Lysandra claimed. The ship slowed suddenly. Lysandra tensed her body, going still. "We are not alone," she whispered. Valerie listened but heard nothing beyond the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Then she felt it, a vibration through the hull, a rhythmic tapping like claws on metal. "The Huntress," Lysandra confirmed. "She tracks us through the sister bond. Even death could not break that connection." "How can she move so fast?" Valerie asked, remembering the damage Firewing had inflicted. The tunnels had taken them miles from the mountain sanctuary. "They do not feel pain," Lysandra explained. "They do not tire. They do not stop unless completely destroyed. And even then, parts of them can function independently, regenerating, rebuilding." The ship accelerated again, diving deeper into the tunnel network. Valerie caught glimpses of other passages branching off, some natural, some clearly artificial, created with technology beyond human understanding. The walls in these sections were smooth, almost polished, with symbols etched into their surfaces, symbols that glowed faintly as they passed. "We approach the vault entrance," Lysandra said. The ship began to slow. Again that tapping sound from outside grew louder. The Huntress was still following. They could not outrun her. Lysandra touched a panel. The ship responded, opening a section of the floor. A weapons locker, Valerie realized as Lysandra withdrew what appeared to be a slender rifle. Its design matched the organic flowing lines of the ship. It seemed to come alive in Lysandra's hands, parts shifting and adjusting to her grip. "Can that stop her?" Valerie asked, remembering how quickly the Huntress had repaired herself after their last encounter. "No," Lysandra admitted, "but it will slow her. We need only enough time to reach the inner chamber. Take this." She handed Valerie a smaller weapon similar in design. It felt warm in her hands, alive somehow. The grip adjusted to her human fingers, though it had clearly been designed for Sylvari hands. Point and think, Lysandra instructed. "It will respond to your intent, but be careful. It draws energy from the user. Sustained fire will exhaust you." The ship came to a complete stop, settling gently onto the tunnel floor. A doorway appeared in the hull, opening to reveal a vast underground chamber. Valerie gasped as she stepped out. They stood in what must have been a city once. Spires of crystal and metal rose hundreds of feet above them, disappearing into darkness. Buildings unlike any human architecture flowed into one another, creating a seamless landscape of curves and spirals. The entire complex glowed, with soft blue light coming from within the structures themselves. "Welcome to Sylvari Prime," Lysandra said. "Outpost 17. Once home to 10,000 of my people." The city was empty now, silent, preserved perfectly, as if the inhabitants had simply stepped away for a moment, expected to return at any time. Valerie saw objects floating above pedestals, clothing draped over furniture, food service areas with plates still set out, all abandoned in pristine condition. "How long?" Valerie whispered. 5,000 of your years, Lysandra replied. "The stasis field preserved everything, but the people never returned." Firewing growled suddenly, his body tensed, scales hardening. A warning, Lysandra raised her weapon, pointing it back toward the tunnel they had emerged from. The tapping sound had stopped, but something worse replaced it. A high-pitched whine that made Valera's teeth ache. "She comes," Lysandra said. "Move now." They ran through the abandoned city, Valerie struggling to keep pace with Lysandra. The elf woman moved with inhuman grace and speed. Firewing remained behind them, watching their backs, his body growing larger, with each passing moment, preparing for battle. "The vault is in the central spire," Lysandra called over her shoulder. "The tallest building." "That was once our command center." Valerie looked up at the massive structure rising from the center of the underground city. It dwarfed the others, its design more angular, less organic. Sharp lines and hard edges, unlike the flowing curves of the surrounding buildings. It looked older somehow, more primal. The whining sound grew louder. Valerie risked a glance back. The Huntress stood at the entrance to the tunnel, her body silhouetted against the darkness. She did not run. She walked with measured steps, each movement precise, calculating the distance to her prey, the most efficient path to interception. Her arm had transformed again, becoming a long blade that dragged along the ground, leaving a glowing trail in its wake. Firewing launched himself at the huntress. His body now massive, wings spread wide, fire gathered in his throat. The two collided in an explosion of energy that shook the entire cavern. Buildings trembled. Crystal spires sang with resonance. Valerie was thrown to the ground by the shockwave. Lysandra pulled her up. "Keep moving, the dragon will buy us time, but not much. The huntress is stronger here." Drawing power from the city itself, they reached the central spire. A doorway appeared as Lysandra approached, recognizing her. Somehow the interior was different from the rest of the city. Dark and utilitarian. No decorative elements, no concessions to comfort. This was a military installation. Lysandra moved confidently through the complex, her familiarity obvious. This had been her command once. Her headquarters, the central spire, contained a lift platform that carried them upward through the structure to its peak, a chamber with views of the entire underground city. The command center was dominated by a single object, a crystal pillar larger than the others, its surface covered in millions of tiny symbols that shifted and changed constantly. Lysandra approached it, placing her hand against its surface. The crystal recognized her touch, pulsing with renewed energy. The symbols moved faster, organizing themselves into patterns, the activation codes Lysandra explained, each sequence unique to a specific ship or fleet group, each requiring the correct genetic signature to unlock. When complete, the dormant fleet will awaken. Ready for battle. How many ships? Valerie asked, still trying to comprehend the scale of what was happening. 917. Lysandra replied. Dreadnoughts, carriers, support vessels, a complete battle group. The last of the silvery military might. And our only hope against what comes from below. Came the sounds of battle. Firewing and the huntress still fighting. The dragon roared in pain. The building shook as something massive struck its foundations. The huntress is stronger than she should be. Lysandra said, her face troubled. She has been upgraded. New weapons, new systems. The void has evolved their technology. The crystal pulsed faster as Lysandra worked. Symbols arranged themselves into complex patterns, then locked into place. Each successful sequence caused sections of the pillar to glow brighter. Valerie moved to the window overlooking the city. The battle below was visible now. Firewing and the huntress locked in combat. The dragon breathed streams of golden fire. The huntress absorbed them, her body transforming to counter each attack. Where the dragon's claws struck her metal skin, it flowed like liquid, reforming instantly. They were evenly matched. A stalemate. But the huntress was a machine. She would not tire. She would not weaken. Firewing, despite his power, was flesh and blood. Already his movements were slowing, his attacks less coordinated. Lysandra, I think Firewing is losing, Valerie called. The elf woman did not look up, her focus entirely on the crystal. The codes were nearly complete. Only a few sequences remained. A new sound echoed through the city, a grinding mechanical noise that came from all directions at once. The buildings themselves were changing. Transforming weapons emerged from what had appeared to be decorative elements, defense systems activating. The city defends itself, Lysandra explained, still working. The void cannot be allowed to take this place. Valerie watched as energy weapons fired from a dozen buildings targeting the huntress. She dodged with impossible speed. Each movement calculated to the millisecond, but she could not avoid them all. One beam caught her squarely, driving her back. A second struck her chest, leaving a molten crater in her form. Firewing seized the advantage, diving from above, his claws tearing through the weakened metal of her torso. For a moment, Valerie thought it might be enough. The huntress fell to one knee, her systems struggling to repair the massive damage. Then everything changed. The huntress plunged, her blade arm into the ground, directly into the city floor. Energy surged through her body. The crater in her chest healed instantly. Her form grew larger, metal and flesh expanding. Parts of the fire wing flew through the night sky, his wings silent against the air. Valerie clung to his scales, feeling the heat of his body beneath her ahead. Lysandra sat perfectly still, her silver hair streaming behind them like a banner. The moons of Neve cast everything in pale blue light, making the landscape below seem unreal. They traveled for hours until the burning colony disappeared behind mountain ranges. Valerie saw no signs of pursuit, but Lysandra remained tense, her body never relaxing. The dragon began descending toward a series of cliffs that rose from the forest like broken teeth. The landing was gentle despite Firewing's size. He touched down on a narrow ledge, barely visible from the air. Lysandra slid from his back in one fluid motion, while Valerie climbed down awkwardly, her legs stiff from the long flight. "Follow," Lysandra commanded, walking toward what appeared to be solid rock. As she approached, the stone rippled like water, revealing a hidden entrance. Valerie gasped, but followed the pair inside. The opening sealed behind them, leaving no trace they had ever been there. The cave opened into a vast chamber filled with strange technology. Crystal pillars rose from floor to ceiling, pulsing with inner light. Curved metal surfaces reflected their movements, distorting their images. Objects floated without support, their purpose unknown to Valerie. A laboratory, perhaps. Or a command center. "You have questions," Lysandra said, turning to face Valerie. "Ask them now while we have time." The huntress will be occupied with the colony defenses, but not for long. Valerie tried to organize her thoughts. Too many questions crowded her mind. Who are you? What was that vision? What is hunting you? Why are you here? But she settled on the most immediate. What is the huntress? Lysandra moved to one of the floating objects, touching it lightly. An image appeared in the air above them. A figure that looked similar to Lysandra, but wrong somehow. The proportions were off. The skin, too, tight across the face. The eyes empty of life but filled with purpose. Metal components were embedded in the flesh, merging with it, creating something. Neither machine nor living being. Once she was Sylvari like me. Lysandra said, her voice flat. My sister, Lillian, commander of the Eastern Fleet. Now she is this, a weapon shaped from what remained of her body and mind, sent to hunt the last of us, the Sylvari. Valerie repeated, your people. The ones from my vision. Lysandra nodded. We ruled 1,000 worlds. Once our civilization stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, we mastered technologies your people cannot imagine. We thought ourselves invulnerable. We were wrong. Firewing made a sound like distant thunder. His form shifted again, becoming smaller, more compact. He moved to a crystal pillar, touching it with one claw. Images began to flow across its surface, too fast for Valerie to comprehend. Lysandra watched them, her face growing darker. They destroyed our homeworld. First, Lysandra continued, the enemy came without warning, without demands. They simply appeared in orbit around Sylvara and began the harvest. They consumed everything. Life energy, technology, knowledge. Nothing was spared. We fought back, of course. We had the greatest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. But for every ship of theirs we destroyed, 10 more appeared. Valerie stepped closer to the images, trying to make sense of them. Who are they? Why attack you? Lysandra laughed without humor. We never learned their true name. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. We called them the Void, because that is what they left behind. They are not like you or me. They are not individuals. They are fragments of a greater consciousness. A hive that spans galaxies. A new image appeared in the crystal, a massive structure shaped like a twisted star, black and cold yet somehow alive. Energy flowed along its surface like blood through veins. Their mothership, Lysandra said, one of many. We destroyed 3. During the war it made no difference. They adapted to our weapons. They learned our tactics. They turned our own technology against us. Firewing growled, the sound echoing through the chamber. His eyes flashed with remembered rage. We created the dragons. Then Lysandra touched Firewing's head gently. Bioweapons designed to counter the void living ships with the ability to channel pure energy. They turned the tide for a time, but the enemy adapted again. They created the hunters, taking our own dead and wounded, transforming them into weapons against us. My sister was one of the first to fall. Valerie struggled to process everything she was hearing. But one question burned stronger than the others. Why are you here? On a human colony world before. Lysandra could answer. Alarms sounded throughout the chamber. Lights flashed from red to deep purple. Firewing roared, growing larger again, his wings unfurling in the confined space. She has found us, Lysandra said, moving quickly to another console. How she shouldn't have been able to trace us so quickly. A different image appeared. A woman with short brown hair. Valerie recognized her immediately. Paige Monroe, her research partner. The image showed Paige speaking to someone off-screen, handing over what looked like Valerie's recording device. Your colleague, Lysandra said coldly. She works for them. Impossible. Valerie protested. Paige is human. She works for the Xenobiology Institute. She can't be. Lysandra turned, fixing Valerie with those ancient, violet eyes. Not all puppets know they are being pulled by strings. The void has agents everywhere. Sleeper cells, unwitting accomplices, people who think they serve their governments, their corporations, their scientific institutions. But ultimately, serve the void. The alarms grew louder. Firewing moved to the entrance, his body blocking the passage. His scales hardened, becoming armor once more. We cannot stay here, Lysandra said. She touched several floating objects in sequence. The technology around them began to power down. Crystal pillars dimmed. Floating devices settled to the ground. The cave was preparing for abandonment. Where will we go? Valerie asked. The colony will shoot us down if we return. The military will be hunting for you by now. Commander Diane Wright leads planetary defense. She won't stop until she captures you. A new voice interrupted them, harsh and mechanical. Security breach in Sector 5. Automated defense systems compromised. External containment failing. Lysandra cursed, in a language Valerie did not recognize. The words seemed to burn the air. The elf woman moved to a wall, touching it in a complex pattern. The stone melted away, revealing a hidden chamber. Beyond it, Valerie could see a tunnel stretching deep into the mountain. Take only what you need, Lysandra instructed. We travel light and fast. The sanctuary is compromised. Valerie had nothing to take. She had followed Lysandra with only the clothes she wore. But Lysandra gathered several crystal shards, placing them in a pouch at her waist. She also took what appeared to be a weapon, a slender rod that extended into a staff crackling with energy at one end. Firewing shrank again, becoming small enough to ride on Lysandra's shoulder. His eyes remained fixed on the cave entrance, body tense and ready. Before they could reach the tunnel, the main entrance exploded inward. Rock and debris flew across the chamber. Valerie dove for cover behind a crystal pillar. Dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe. When it cleared, a figure stood in the ruined doorway. The huntress had arrived. She looked like the image Lysandra had shown, but more terrifying in person. Her movements were wrong, too fluid yet too precise, mechanical yet organic. Parts of her glowed, with internal energy. Her face, a twisted version of Lysandra's, bore no expression. Her eyes tracked movement but showed no awareness. No consciousness. Behind her stood Paige Monroe, Valeri's research partner. Her face blank, her eyes empty. She moved like a puppet, her gestures stiff and unnatural. The commander has been located. The huntress spoke, her voice metallic and cold. Surrender protocols initiated. Resistance is inefficient. Lysandra raised her staff, energy crackling from its tip. Tell my sister, I send my regrets. The huntress tilted her head. The vessel that was Lillian no longer functions in command capacity. This unit operates independently of original consciousness. Parameters. Pain flashed across Lysandra's face, quickly replaced by determination. So there is nothing left of her. Probability of original consciousness. Retrieval is 0. The huntress stepped forward. Her arm transformed, elongating into a weapon. Surrender is recommended. Firewing launched from Lysandra's shoulder, growing in midair. He struck the huntress with full force, driving her back through the entrance. The sound of their battle echoed from outside, metal against scale, energy weapons against dragon fire. Lysandra turned to Valerie, ignoring Paige completely. We must reach the vault. The activation codes must be protected. Valerie pointed at Paige. What about her? What happened to her? She is gone, Lysandra said. There is nothing to save. The void controls her now. A living relay allowing them to see through her eyes. Paige smiled, the expression wrong on her familiar face. Commander Lysandra, last of the High Council. Your location has been transmitted. Containment forces are inbound. Surrender the activation codes, and your termination will be painless. Lysandra raised her staff, but Valerie stepped forward. Paige, it's me, Valerie. Remember our work together. The samples we collected on Proxima B. The conference on Earth. For a moment, confusion crossed Paige's face. Her eyes focused on Valerie. Recognition flickered. Val, help me, I can't. Something is in my... Then her expression went blank again. The Huntress unit will retrieve the codes. This vessel will secure secondary targets. Lysandra pulled Valerie toward the tunnel. We cannot save her. The connection is too deep. They have replaced her mind with their programming. She is merely an extension of the void now. An explosion from outside shook the entire mountain. Firewing and the Huntress still battling. The dragon roared in pain. The spaceport of Neve buzzed with activity under twin purple suns. People from a dozen worlds moved through the marketplace, selling goods from across the stars. Valerie Summers walked among them, her eyes scanning the crowd for new species to document. Her job as a xenobiologist meant she was always watching, always studying. Valerie stopped suddenly, her breath catching. The crowd seemed to part as if pushed by an unseen force. Through this opening, she saw her, a woman tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like pearl in the alien sunlight. Her ears came to delicate points and her hair flowed like liquid silver down her back. But it was her eyes that made Valerie freeze violet, and ancient they held wisdom and pain beyond human understanding on. The strange woman's shoulder perched what Valerie first thought was an ornament. But then it moved. A creature with scales that shifted between deep red and gold. Tiny compared to its companion, but somehow radiating power. The small dragon stretched leathery wings and fixed eyes like burning embers on Valerie. The marketplace noise faded away. Valerie found herself stepping forward, her hand already reaching for her recording device. She had studied every cataloged species in human space. Nothing like these two beings existed in any database. This was the discovery of a lifetime. The elf woman noticed her stare. Her face remained calm, but something dangerous flashed in those violet eyes. The dragon hissed a sound like steam, escaping a pressure valve. Its tail wrapped tighter around the woman's neck, almost protectively. Valerie continued forward, unaware of the warning signs. Too focused on her discovery, she didn't notice how the locals moved away, giving the pair a wide berth. She didn't see how the market sellers turned their faces down, avoiding even accidental eye contact. The elf woman spoke, her voice musical yet sharp. Stop where you are, human. Her words carried easily through the space between them, though she did not shout, stare if you must, but approaching me comes with a price. Valerie froze, uncertainty replacing her scientific excitement. The dragon made a sound almost like laughter. Its claws dug slightly into the woman's cloak, leaving tiny burn marks. Where they touched, another human pushed past Valerie. A man in colony security uniform, his hand resting on his weapon. The marketplace grew quieter as people noticed the confrontation. We don't allow threats against citizens here, alien. The man spoke, with authority, striding forward while Valerie tried to signal him to stop. I made no threat. The elf woman said I merely stated a fact. She remained perfectly still, but the dragon on her shoulder grew larger, somehow swelling from the size of a small cat to something closer to a large dog without seeming to change at all. Its eyes glowed brighter, The security officer reached for his weapon. A mistake. The dragon moved faster than seemed possible. One moment on the woman's shoulder, the next airborne. Its wings stretched wide, blocking the sun's. Its body now the size of a small shuttlecraft, fire gathered in its mouth. The elf woman raised one slender hand. The dragon held its flame, though it kept growing larger and larger. The crowd scattered, screaming. Some knocked over stalls in their panic to escape. "I will leave peacefully," the elf woman said. Her voice remained level, but now carried throughout the entire marketplace. "The dragon will harm no one unless you force my hand." The security officer backed, away slowly, his weapon forgotten at his side. A wise decision, Valerie thought, her scientific curiosity now mixed with fear and awe. Valerie saw something else too. Something in how the elf woman kept glancing toward the sky. How the dragon, despite its display, kept shifting its gaze to the port entrance. They were afraid, Valerie realized, not of the humans, but of something else. Something that might be coming for them. The crowd parted again, this time in terror, as the elf woman walked forward. The dragon shrank, returning to her shoulder, though its eyes remained fixed on the security officer. It took effort for Valerie to stand her ground as the pair approached. The elf woman stopped directly before Valerie. "Consider carefully, human, before you follow. The price of knowledge is involvement." The woman reached out, one finger touching Valerie's forehead lightly. "Once seen, we cannot be unseen. Once known, we cannot be unknown." A vision flashed through Valeria's mind. Stars exploding. Worlds burning. A war spanning millennia. An enemy that consumed civilizations, the dragon, the last of its kind. The elf woman, a commander without an army. A fleet hidden among the stars, waiting for codes only she possessed. Valerie gasped, falling to her knees as the vision ended. When she looked up, the marketplace had returned to normal. The elf woman and her dragon companion walked away. Disappearing into the crowd, alarms began to sound throughout the colony. The security network announcing an unauthorized ship had entered orbit. Military personnel rushed toward the defense stations. Valerie knew without being told the ship wasn't human. It had come hunting. The elf woman and her dragon were prey. Valerie made her decision quickly. Standing, she followed the path the mysterious pair had taken. Her recorder forgotten. Her scientific caution abandoned. The vision showed her one truth she couldn't ignore. The fate of humanity was somehow tied to these strangers. The spaceport ended at the edge of the colony. Where wilderness took over, Valerie saw footprints leading into the dense forest. No one else followed. These beings frightened the colonists too much. But Valerie had seen something in those ancient eyes. Something beyond the danger. Something like recognition. The forest grew darker as Valerie pushed deeper, following the trail. Night was falling on Neve, but she dared not turn back. The colony alarms still blared in the distance. She heard ships taking off, likely colony defense forces responding to the intruder. She had to find the elf woman first. Light appeared ahead. A soft glow through the trees. Valerie slowed her approach, moving carefully. The dragon would sense her. She knew. But perhaps it would remember she meant no harm. The elf woman sat in a small clearing, her silver hair now glowing with its own light. The dragon curled around her, larger than before, but not the enormous size it had shown in the marketplace. Its scales shifted colors as if reflecting emotions. "Why do you follow?" "Just human." The elf woman's voice drifted to Valerie, though she hadn't turned or given any indication. She knew Valerie was there. "The price I spoke of is not small. It is not paid with money or simple service." Valerie stepped into the clearing. "I saw what you showed me. I saw the war. I want to help." The elf woman turned, then her face expressionless. "You cannot help what you do not understand. Human civilization is young, barely crawling from your homeworld. You have no concept of the enemy. We face the dragon." Raised its head, studying Valerie with ancient eyes. A low rumble came from its throat, almost like it was speaking. The elf woman listened, then shook her head. "No, Firewing. She cannot be the one we seek. She is merely curious. A scientist seeking knowledge without understanding its weight." Valerie stepped closer. My name is Valerie Summers. I study life forms across known space. But what I saw in that vision, nothing in our record shows anything like it. Tell me who you are. Please. A long silence followed. The dragon named Firewing continued to make soft sounds, its eyes never leaving Valerie. Finally, the elf woman spoke. I am Lysandra, last commander of the Silvery Fleet, guardian of the seventh seal keeper of the Dormant Ones. This is Firewing, last of the Sunfire Clutch. We are all that remains of a civilization that ruled the stars when your ancestors still fought with stone weapons. The ground shook beneath them. A distant explosion lit the night sky. Colony defenses firing on the intruder. Lysandra looked up, her face showing emotion for the first time. Fear mixed with resignation. They have found us again, she whispered. The huntress comes. Firewing grew larger again, its body elongating, scales hardening into armor. Its head swung toward Valerie, eyes narrowing. You have made your choice, human, Lysandra said, standing in one fluid motion. Whether you meant to or not, you have involved yourself. Now you will pay the price. Knowledge demands action. And the enemy does not distinguish between witnesses and allies. Another explosion closer this time. Trees at the edge of the colony burst into flame. We must move, Lysandra said. The sanctuary is compromised. Firewing lowered his body to the ground, clearly offering himself as transport. Valerie hesitated only a moment. The colony was under attack. The military would blame these strangers. They would never understand the true threat. She had seen glimpses of it in the vision. Something ancient. Something patient. Something that had nearly destroyed Lysandra's people and would not hesitate to do the same to humanity. Valerie climbed onto the dragon's back, its scales warm beneath her. The price of knowledge is involvement. Lysandra's words echoed in her mind as Firewing launched into the night sky, carrying them away from the burning colony. Valerie wondered exactly how high that price would be.